Mental fatigue doesn't knock you out, it wears you down quietly, relentlessly. This is Greg Swanson, and welcome back to Warrior Mind Podcast. This is episode 731, and we're going to be talking about something that is prevalent in everybody that I've talked with, coached with. It's mental fatigue. Mental fatigue is that hidden tax on leadership or high performance or peak performance, right? It's the reason you feel wired but tired, present but unfocused, and driven but directionless. Doesn't that sound like an awful place to be? Well, a lot of us get there, right? We're so wired, but we're tired, and we're driven. We want to get things done, but we have no direction where to go. And if you're not building cognitive stamina, kind of like our cardiovascular system, to handle the demands of modern leadership and modern high performance, you're already behind the curve. But here's the good news. Your brain is trainable. You've heard this from Joe Dispenza, from myself, and Huberman, all of them. Our brain is trainable just like your body. Mental fatigue is what happens when your cognitive load outpaces your brain's ability to recover, kind of like lifting weights, right? We can lift and lift and lift and keep going. It might seem like a light weight in the beginning, but we keep moving it. Then our body cannot keep up with that demand. The weight hasn't changed. It's just how often have we lifted it that changes. And the same thing happens with mental fatigue. It's not about being lazy. It's about being overloaded. Every decision, distraction, and task switching drains your mental energy like apps draining your phone battery. Just wanted to stop and talk a little bit about task switching. If you haven't heard about that, it's a science phenomenon that you're focusing on one thing. Let's say you're writing a report and the phone rings and you pick up the phone and it's going to be a 10-minute call. And then the call ends and then somebody walks into the room and then you get back to your report. Well, it takes a longer time now to get engaged in your report because your brain was engaged in that in the beginning. And then you switch tasks, answering the phone, and your brain was on pause for a few moments and then got caught up to what the phone call was about. And then the person walked in the office and it took a few minutes for you to get in touch with what they were saying, and then you went back to the report and you can't pick it up. This buffer time is very costly as far as effectiveness and efficiency. And so this is what happened. This can really, really add to mental fatigue because you're switching back and forth, as opposed to doing one thing until you're done with it, right? And just like your phone, your brain will overheat, slow down, and eventually shut off if you don't recharge it. That could be sticking your head in ice water. No, just kidding. But we need to give ourselves that rest, right? That rest, that recovery is essential to come back to what we were doing in a stronger or the same fashion. Mental fatigue isn't laziness. It's a warning. It's a red flag that says, look out, be careful, something needs your attention. Right? Mental fatigue equals the slow leak of mental energy. You wake up, you have, let's say, 0 units of mental energy or 100 units of mental energy, and then you check your phone, and then you decide what you're going to wear, and then you decide who's going to take the kids to school, then you decide what you're going to bring for lunch, then you're going to decide what's going to have all of this first thing in the morning, and each one of those decisions ticks off one of those mental energy units. So you wake up with 100, and 10 minutes later, you're down to 90 already. Well, that continues throughout the day. So it's the slow leak of this mental energy, right? It's common in leaders, socialpreneurs, and executives because they're this high performers. They have a standard they want for themselves. And so they think by getting an early start to the day, they're going to be able to get more done. But in reality, that early start of the day drains their mental fatigue. So by the time important decisions are to be made, important meetings to attend, they are less than half of the tank of mental energy, right? And it shows up as indecisions, irritability, and burnout. All of those can be lumped in together. And irritability really is a great sign for it because, when we're in a great mood and things are going well, we tend to let little things run off our back. But when we are mentally fatigued, every little thing is a trigger for us. But this also is a signal to evolve. This is right when quote bad things happen, they're not bad. They're a sign telling us pay attention, do something, or else something worse is going to happen. So we want to be able to use these signals and evolve ourselves. Right. So what is mental fatigue? I know I've gone through quite a bit of it so far, but let's get to the brass tacks on this. Right. It's a ongoing cognitive exhaustion from overstimulation, multitasking, and decision overload. And those all can be at the same time. Multitasking, I've done a lot of reports and podcasts on it. Multitasking is the downfall of our industrial society or our educational society or our knowledgeable society, right? We cannot multitask and give each thing the proper attention. There's always enough time to do it right, but never enough time. There's a saying, I messed that one up, didn't I? So there is a saying that why is there enough time to do it over again, but never enough time to do it right the first time? That's what multitasking can do. And so it's not physical tiredness, it's neural depletion. So it's our brain, it's wearing down, right? And this is why Red Bull is so popular and coffee and nootropics and all these things we're trying to circumvent what our natural tendency is to take a break. We're trying to push through it. And at some point, it's going to bite you in the butt, right? So some of these causes, right, are email hell, right? We always check in our email. We're looking at email like it's a text. So we check our email, 5 minutes later, we check it again, check it again, check it again. And in between our emails, we're going to do some scrolling, and then we're going to overschedule ourselves, and then we're going to do some task switching. We're going to lump that all together and call it our mental fatigue combo. And this is what happens. And when I work with clients on helping them set up their ideal day, AM routine, PM routine, work routine, and sleep routine, we talk about where to put these things, where to put email, where to put social scrolling, because it's going to happen. How do we manage our calendars and then staying on one task until completed? Right. So some of the signs that you may have with mental fatigue, right, is low motivation, again, irritability, indecision, zoning out. You ever get into a meeting and just zone out and you don't even remember what the person said for the last 5 minutes? And then impulsive choices, right? This is interesting, is that, when you're really fatigued, you may, as you're scrolling, go shopping through either TikTok, maybe Instagram or Amazon. You go, oh, that looks good. And you just buy it. And you know that you get it and you go, man, I should have never bought it. So this is some of the things can happen when you're experiencing mental fatigue. Why high performers are the most at risk. And this can be, even low performers, if you will, can be at risk, but high performance is usually trying to sustain a consistent output for a long period of time. And their driven personalities overextend cognitive load. They just want to keep going, going, going. I'll make up for it. Like I said, I'll have my Red Bull, I'll have my nootropics, I'll have coffee, I'll mix them all together, and I'll be able to keep going and cranking. And they're always on, no time to rest, the neural bandwidth, right? We do need that time. And even when we're sleeping, it's not enough because it's, if we've been going for 15, 16 hours nonstop, 4 hours, 6 hours sleep is not going to repair the damage or repair ourselves adequately to the full capacity load. It's the glorification of grinding, right? Fired nervous system. It's almost a badge of honor that we get burnout. And that's just completely bullcrap, because When we keep grinding, we're not going to be the best at work. We're not going to be the best as a partner. We're not going to be the best as a parent or a friend. And we're sacrificing all of that because we just don't give ourselves that time to get a little bounce back from this mental fatigue. And performance without recovery equals brain breakdown. We need that recovery, especially throughout the day and then especially at night. So here's the neuroscience of cognitive burnout. The prefrontal cortex gets overworked. This is your executive area, right? It's where it leads to worse decision making. Your amygdala is hijacked. You're more emotionally reactive, right? The amygdala is where the emotions sit. The lymphatic system, your brain's night janitor, needs sleep and downtime, right? That symptom, it goes in there and cleans up all the crap that you've released in your body, right? All the dead cells, all the negative emotions, all that stuff. That's what happens when you sleep. But if it's too exhausted to do its work, you're going to wake up exhausted, just like when you went to sleep exhausted. The dopamine fatigue, right? The consistent novelty equals lower motivation, right? If you keep wanting that hit, you're going to have lower motivation to do things that you like. So then enter the conscious warrior. The conscious warrior operates from awareness, not autopilot. It's anchored in the four pillars: the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And this is what I coach my clients on, is at least as the AM and PM routine, there needs to be a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual component of it. And this is going to help battle that mental fatigue, right? The conscious warrior understands the cost of distractions. You wake up, you check your email, you check your social media. Conscious warrior knows that every second doing that depletes a unit of your mental energy. It trains attention and recover like a discipline, right? We train our bodies. Hopefully you do train your body, but if you're running, marathoning, Spartan race, whatever, you train it, but you also recover. And all of that is part of a discipline. And we need to train our attention, what we put our attention to, and recovery like a discipline. It's just not like, oh, it'd be nice to have, right? And so how to build cognitive stamina. This is information that is neuroscience backed, right? Ultrarian method breaks. So this is kind of like the Pomodoro method, right? You have 90 minutes of focused time and 20 minutes of recovery. That recovery isn't so you're at your desk, you're working like crazy, 90 minutes break, you switch over and check emails. That's not recovery. Recovery is 20 minutes doing some light activity, maybe talking to some coworkers, walking around, go outside, get some fresh air. And in that 90 minutes, remember, it's focus. It's not 90 minutes of multitasking. So when you come back and finish that 90 minutes, you're going to be amazed at how much you got done in that 90 minutes on that one task, which if you multitasked it would probably take you 3 or 4 days. So nutrition, right? We want to take a look at that, which is your omega-3s, your hydration, and nootropics, optional. But in the hydration, we also want to take a look at electrolytes to help with our brain stimulation or help with our brain fatigue as well. But omega-3s are proven, fish oil, to be really helpful with the brain's ability for mental fatigue or to battle mental fatigue. Sleepism, circadian consistently, low stimulation, wind down. So we have our circadian rhythms and we have our chronotypes. And we want to really take a look at, combining that circadian rhythm, which is basically the world rhythm when sun up and sun down, and our breaks throughout that day, and then how we sleep, what type of sleep we are looking for. So we want to take a look at that and make sure that we schedule ourselves correctly. And digital fasting, right? We want to eliminate that dopamine drips, scrolling and multitasking until a time where there's nothing issue going around. Maybe you come home or you are home, you go sit on the couch and you just want to scroll for a little bit, not 5 hours. So you just scroll for a little bit, but you put it all off to the end because fear of missing out, it may be real for you, but think about it. What didn't you see last week that had a great impact on your life? Nothing, because you would have had an impact on your life and you haven't, so you didn't miss anything, right? And single t- t- tasking, right? The mindfulness of the modern warrior. Follow one course until successful. FOCUS, right? Focus. The word focus implies follow one course until successful, not follow a bunch of courses or follow other things, right? Multitasking. The single tasking, and I've met with such resistance with my clients, and I tell them, hey, be a scientist, experiment for a week. In each block of time that you set aside, focus on one thing. Turn your phone off, turn your emails off, turn everything off, and focus on that one thing. First of all, most of my clients have a challenge to focus on one thing for 10 minutes, let alone 90 minutes. But eventually we get them there, and they are amazed at how much they got done in a shorter period of time. So here's some final thoughts, right? Mental fatigue is not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're human and that your current pace is unsustainable. You have to stop, right? The truth, the sharpest minds don't run 24/7. They absolutely don't. They recover, recalibrate, and re-engage with intensity, kind of like a race car, right? The 24-hour Le Mans is a really hard course to do, but you eventually do stop, right? F1 goes for a certain amount of time and then you stop. They even take pit stops, and this is what we're talking about. You know, cognitive stamina is your hidden edge. Protect it. If you want to separate yourself from others, switch over to this mindset of single tasking, taking care of breaks, hydration, omega-3s, all the things we talked about here, and watch how your productivity increases and then your stress decreases. Because when your mind is clear, your path is unstoppable. So if you want to see the show notes on this podcast, you can visit warriormindcoach.com for more useful information in the form of podcasts as well as blog posts. And while you're there, you can request your power strategy session, aka breakthrough call as well. Since you'll be on the internet, please follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, all under Warrior Mind Coach.